The alarm bells rang throughout the Kratesh ship, but this time they sang with victory. Captain Vexor stood on the bridge of the venomous prophet, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he watched the view screen. His crew had just pulled off the catch of a lifetime, a human. A real living human. Vexor's scales rippled with pleasure. In his 20 years of hunting rare cargo across the galaxy, he had never managed to capture one of these legendary creatures. Humans were worth more than their weight in platinum on the black markets. They were strong, adaptable, and could survive in conditions that would kill most other species. Every slaver in the sector dreamed of catching one. And now, floating in the tractor beam of his ship, was a small human vessel. It looked old and worn, with carbon scoring on the hull and mismatched repair panels. The ship had been drifting near the outer reaches, sending out no signals, appearing abandoned. But the life sign scanner had showed one human occupant. "Bring him aboard," Vexor ordered, his voice a deep rumble. "Use the heavy restraints. I have heard the stories about human strength." The crew moved quickly. They were professionals, experienced in handling dangerous cargo. The Kratesh were not the largest species in the galaxy, standing only as tall as a human child, but they were cunning and careful. They had captured war beasts from Thorgan Prime and poison spitters from the Delta colonies. They knew how to handle threats. 10 minutes later, the human was dragged into the cargo bay. Vexor left the bridge to see his prize in person. He wanted to remember this moment. The human was male, or at least appeared to be. He stood about 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and a lean build that suggested strength without bulk. His hair was dark with threads of gray running through it. His face was weathered, marked with old scars that spoke of a violent life. He wore simple clothes, a dark jacket and pants, nothing special. But it was his eyes that caught Vexor's attention. They were calm, completely calm. The human looked around the cargo bay with the casual interest of someone touring a museum, not someone who had just been captured by pirates. "Welcome aboard," Vexor said in Galactic Common, the trade language most species understood. "You are now property of the Kratesh Syndicate. You will be sold at the Torvan markets. If you cooperate, you will not be harmed." The human looked at him. A small smile touched his lips. "Reaper," he said simply. "What?" Vexor tilted his head in confusion. "My name. You can call me Reaper." Vexor laughed, a hissing sound. Bold for someone in chains. "I like that. The buyers will pay extra for spirit," he turned to his crew. "Take him to holding cell 7. The reinforced one. Check the restraints twice." The guards led Reaper away. He walked calmly, not resisting, not struggling. Vexor watched him go, feeling a small twinge of unease. Humans were supposed to be emotional creatures. They were supposed to fight back or beg or show fear. This one showed nothing. "Captain," a voice called from behind him. It was Scretch, the ship's data analyst. She was a vixen, a species known for their skill with computers and information systems. "I need to speak with you about the human ship." Vexor followed her back to the bridge. Scretch's station was covered in holographic displays, showing various scans and data streams from the captured vessel. "What is the problem?" Vexor asked. "The ship itself is old, but the systems are not," Scretch said, her whiskers twitching nervously. "The computer core has military-grade encryption. Very advanced military-grade encryption. I cannot break it." Vexor waved a claw dismissively. "So the human stole a military ship, or bought one on the black market. This is not unusual. That is not all," Scretch continued. "I ran the ship's identification codes through every database I could access. Nothing, no records, no registration, no maintenance logs. It is as if this ship does not exist." "A ghost ship," Vexor mused. "Perhaps the human is a smuggler. They are known for hiding their tracks." "Perhaps," Scretch said, but she did not sound convinced. "But why would a smuggler have such advanced military encryption? And why would he be drifting alone in the outer reaches with no cargo and no apparent destination?" Vexor considered this. It was strange, he had to admit. But strange or not, a human was a human. The Torvan markets would not care about the mystery. They would care only about the profit. "Keep working on the encryption," he ordered. "If there is valuable data in that ship, we will sell it too. But the human is the priority. We reach Torvan in 8 days. Make sure all systems are ready." Scretch nodded and returned to her work. Vexor walked through the ship, checking on various systems. The venomous prophet was not a large vessel, but it was well equipped for its purpose. The crew numbered 37, all experienced hunters and traders. They had holding cells that could contain anything from wild animals to sentient beings. They had weapons, shields, and engines fast enough to outrun most patrol ships. He stopped by holding cell 7. Through the reinforced window, he could see Reaper sitting on the metal bench inside. The human's hands were locked in heavy magnetic cuffs behind his back. His feet were chained to the floor. Energy barriers hummed at the cell door, ready to stun anyone who tried to pass through without authorization. Reaper sat quietly, his head tilted back against the wall, his eyes closed. He looked almost peaceful, like he was taking a nap. Vexor shook his head. Humans were strange creatures indeed. 3 days passed without incident. The ship traveled through the empty space between systems, following well-worn pirate routes that avoided patrol zones. The crew went about their duties, maintaining the ship and caring for their other cargo. They had a hold full of exotic animals and rare minerals, but everyone knew the human was the real treasure. On the third night, Vexor was awakened by his communicator beeping urgently. He grabbed it, still half asleep. "Captain, you need to come to the security station," said the voice of Krull, the security chief. "Now!" Vexor hurried through the corridors. When he reached the security station, he found Krull staring at multiple screens with a confused expression. "What is it?" Vexor demanded. "The cameras," Krull said, pointing at the screens. "They keep glitching. Look at this one near the engine room. It goes black for exactly 3 seconds, then comes back. Then this one near the storage bay. Same thing, 3 seconds of nothing. Maintenance issue," Vexor said. "Have it fixed." "I thought so too," Krull replied. "But then I checked the logs. It has happened 17 times in the past 6 hours. Always different cameras. Always exactly 3 seconds. And look at this." Krull pulled up another screen. It showed the corridor outside holding cell 7. The timestamp showed it was from 2 hours ago. As they watched, the image flickered for 3 seconds. When it came back, everything looked the same. "Now watch what happens next," Krull said. He fast-forwarded the footage. 10 minutes after the glitch, a guard walked past the cell doing his rounds. The guard suddenly stopped, pressed his face against the window, then stumbled backward. He grabbed his communicator and spoke frantically into it. "What did he say?" Vexor asked. "He said the cell was empty," Krull answered. "He said the human was gone. But when backup arrived 30 seconds later, they found Reaper sitting in the same place he always sits. The guard was written up for drinking on duty." Vexor felt his scales prickle with unease. "Show me the human now." "Live feed." Krull switched the screen. Holding cell 7 appeared, and there sat Reaper, in the same position as always. Hands cuffed behind his back, feet chained, eyes closed. Peaceful. But now, when Vexor looked at that peaceful face, he felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt afraid. The 4th day aboard the Venomous Prophet started like any other. The crew went about their morning routines, checking systems and preparing food. But there was a tension in the air that had not been there before. Crew members jumped at shadows. They whispered in corners about the strange camera glitches and the guard who swore he had seen an empty cell. Vexor tried to ignore the growing unease. In 3 more days they would reach Torvan. 3 more days and the human would be someone else's problem. 3 more days and Vexor would be rich beyond his dreams. He was in his quarters, reviewing the planned auction details when the alarms screamed to life. This time, they were not the pleasant tones of a successful capture. These were emergency sirens, the kind that meant danger aboard the ship. Vexor ran to the bridge, his heart's pounding. "Report!" he shouted over the noise. Krull's voice came through the communicator, tight with stress. "Holding cell 7. 2 crew members are down. Maybe dead. Medical team is on the way." Vexor felt his blood turn cold. The human? Still in the cell, Captain. Still restrained. That made no sense. Vexor rushed through the corridors toward holding cell 7. Other crew members pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. Their faces showed fear. When he arrived, he found a scene of chaos. The cell door was open. Medical personnel crowded around 2 bodies lying on the floor inside. Guards stood outside with weapons drawn, pointing them at Reaper, who sat in his usual spot on the bench. The human's expression had not changed. He looked calm, almost bored. The ship's doctor, a Metharian named Zilks, stood up from examining the bodies. His skin had turned the pale blue color that indicated distress in his species. "Both dead," Zilks announced. "Necks broken. Deaths occurred within seconds of each other, based on body temperature. Whoever did this was very skilled." How did they get in the cell? Vexor demanded. Their access codes show they entered 15 minutes ago, Krull said, checking his datapad. The security system logged them in properly. No alarms triggered. Vexor looked at Reaper. Did you kill my crew members? Reaper opened his eyes slowly. He looked directly at Vexor and his smile was small and cold. They came to hurt me. That was a mistake. You are restrained, Vexor shouted. Your hands are locked behind your back. Are they? Reaper asked softly. For just a moment, Vexor saw something impossible. Reaper's hands moved forward, free of the magnetic cuffs. He waved them slightly, like greeting an old friend. Then he put them back behind his back, and when the guards rushed forward to check, the cuffs were locked tight again. The guards looked at each other in confusion. The security footage, Vexor said. Show me what happened. Krull pulled up the recording on a portable screen. They watched the 2 dead crew members enter the cell. They were carrying shock prods, the kind used to discipline difficult cargo. The timestamp showed they had been inside for 90 seconds. Then the video went black. Just black. No static, no glitch markers. Pure darkness. When the image returned, the 2 crew members were on the floor, dead. Reaper sat on the bench exactly as he was sitting now. 90 seconds, Zilk said quietly. That is how long it took him to kill 2 armed crew members and return to his position without leaving any evidence. This is not possible, Vexor said. But his voice lacked conviction. Captain, Scretch's voice came through the communicator. I have broken through part of the encryption on the human's ship computer. You need to see this. Vexor took one last look at Reaper, then hurried back to the bridge. Scretch had multiple screens open, showing fragments of recovered data. I could only access small pieces, she explained. The system is designed to erase data if tampered with. But I found something before it locked me out again. She brought up a file on the main screen. It showed a single line of text, a designation code. HSF Speakops Reaper 001. HSF stands for Human Space Federation, Scretch said. That is the human government. Speakops means Special Operations, Military, and Reaper. That is his name. Or his title. I am not sure which. Vexor stared at the code. So he is a soldier. That explains the training. Not just a soldier, Scretch said, her voice shaking. I searched for information about human special operations programs. There are rumors, Captain. Whispers on the dark networks. Stories about a human program that officially does not exist. They call it the Reaper program. What does it do? Vexor asked, though part of him did not want to know the answer. It creates weapons, Scretch said. Not soldiers, weapons. Humans who are sent to places where normal military cannot go. They are enhanced somehow, trained beyond normal limits. They work alone, deep behind enemy lines, and they are very, very good at killing. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Double the guards outside his cell. Vexor ordered, his voice rough. No one enters for any reason. We keep him sedated until we reach Torvin. Over the next 2 days, 3 more crew members died. The first was found in a maintenance shaft. His throat cut with a piece of sharp metal that analysis showed came from the ship's own structure. The second was discovered in a supply closet, strangled with a length of cable. The third died in the engine room, his skull cracked against a support beam. Each time the security footage showed gaps. 3 seconds here, 5 seconds there, never long enough to see what happened, but always perfectly timed to hide the moment of death. And each time, the guards checked holding cell 7. Each time they found Reaper sitting on his bench, hands cuffed behind his back, feet chained to the floor, eyes closed in peaceful meditation. The crew was terrified. They moved in groups, never alone. They jumped at every sound. Some whispered about spacing the human, throwing him out the airlock before he killed them all. Others talked about abandoning ship and taking the escape pods. Vexor held a meeting in the mess hall. All 32 surviving crew members attended, their faces showing fear and exhaustion. We are 5 days from Torvin, Vexor said, trying to sound confident. 5 days and this nightmare ends. The human will be sold and we will never think of him again. How is he doing this? Asked one of the engineers. How is he killing us when he is locked in a cell? No one had an answer. I checked the cell restraints myself, Krull said. They are working perfectly. The magnetic cuffs are active. The chains are secure. The energy barrier would stun anything that tried to pass through it. He should not be able to move. Maybe he has help. suggested another crew member. Maybe he is not working alone. We scanned his ship completely, Scretch said. There was only one life sign. Only him. Then maybe he is not in the cell, the engineer insisted. Maybe what we see is a hologram or a robot or something. Maybe the real human is hiding somewhere on the ship. Vexor considered this. It seemed impossible, but everything about this situation was impossible. Search the entire ship, he ordered. Every room, every corridor, every maintenance shaft. Find anything that does not belong. And someone get the ship's doctor. I want Reaper sedated now. The crew dispersed, moving quickly to follow orders. Vexor remained in the mess hall, staring at his datapad. On the screen was an image of Reaper, taken from the security footage. Those calm eyes stared out at him, knowing something that Vexor did not. Zilx arrived at holding cell 7 with a medical kit and 4 armed guards. Through the window, he could see Reaper sitting in his usual position. The human's eyes were open now, watching them approach. I am going to administer a sedative, Zilx called through the communication panel. Do not resist and you will not be harmed. Reaper smiled. It was not a kind smile. Zilx prepared the injection gun, a device that could deliver medication through the energy barrier without requiring them to open the cell. He aimed it carefully at Reaper's shoulder and fired. The human did not flinch as the sedative dart hit him. He sat still, watching Zilix with those unnervingly calm eyes. Minutes passed. Zilix checked his chronometer. The sedative should have taken effect by now. It was a strong dose, enough to put down a creature twice Reaper's size. Reaper continued to sit there completely awake, completely aware. Give him another dose, one of the guards suggested nervously. Zilix fired again, then again. 3 doses of sedative, any one of which should have rendered a human unconscious for hours. Reaper yawned. Then he spoke, his voice clear and steady. You cannot drug what you cannot catch, and you cannot catch what was never really there. The lights in the corridor flickered. When they came back on, Reaper was standing, his hands free, the cuffs hanging open behind him. The guards opened fire. The energy blast hit the barrier protecting holding cell 7, creating bright flashes of light. When the guards' eyes adjusted, they saw Reaper still standing in the same spot, unharmed. The energy barrier had done its job, preventing the weapons fire from entering the cell, but it had also prevented the shots from hitting Reaper. The human tilted his head, studying them like a scientist might study insects under glass. Then, very slowly, he sat back down on the bench. His hands moved behind his back. When the guards rushed forward to check, the magnetic cuffs were locked again, secured exactly as they had been before. Zilix backed away from the cell, his skin now a deep purple with terror. This is not possible, he whispered. The sedatives should have worked. They must have worked. Report to the captain, one of the guards ordered. Tell him what happened. We will stay here and watch. But Zilx could not move. He stood frozen, staring at Reaper through the window. The human's eyes were closed again, his breathing slow and steady. He looked like he was sleeping. Go, the guard shouted. Zilix ran. On the bridge, Vexor listened to the doctor's report with growing dread. Around him, the other bridge crew worked in silence, but he could feel their fear. It filled the room like smoke, thick and choking. 3 full doses, Zilx said, his voice shaking. Enough sedative to stop a Thorgan war beast. It did nothing to him. Nothing. Perhaps human biology is different, Vexor suggested, grasping for any reasonable explanation. Perhaps their bodies process drugs differently. No, Scretch interrupted from her station. I have been reading about human physiology. They respond to sedatives normally. What we gave him should have worked. Then he has been modified somehow, Vexor said. Enhanced. That must be it. Captain, Krull called out. The ship search is complete. We found nothing unusual. No stowaways, no hidden devices, no evidence of anyone else aboard. Vexor slammed his fist on the command chair. Then explain to me how crew members keep dying while the human sits locked in his cell. No one answered. The silence was broken by an alarm. This time it was the life support system. Scretch's fingers flew across her console, pulling up diagnostic screens. Life support is failing in Section C, she announced. Temperature is dropping. Oxygen levels decreasing. Section C? Vexor thought quickly. That is where the crew quarters are. How many crew members are in that section? 7, Krull said, checking his roster. I am sending teams to evacuate them now. But when the rescue teams reached Section C, they found the doors sealed. The manual overrides did not work. The electronic locks refused to respond, and through the door windows they could see the 7 crew members inside huddled together, their breath creating fog in the rapidly cooling air. "Get those doors open," Vexor ordered over the communicator. The engineering team worked frantically, but nothing they tried succeeded. The doors were locked by the ship's own security system, and the system refused to acknowledge their override commands. It was as if the ship itself had decided to trap those crew members. 30 minutes later, all 7 were dead from cold and oxygen deprivation. Vexor stood on the bridge, staring at the screen showing Section C. Behind him, he could hear crew members crying. Some were praying to their various gods. Others were simply paralyzed with fear. "How many?" he asked quietly. 12 dead now, Krull said. "We started with 37 crew members. We are down to 25. And the human? Still in his cell. Still restrained." Vexor made a decision. "Change course. We are not going to Torvin. Plot a route to the nearest space station, any station. We will dump the human there and let someone else deal with him." Scretch worked at her console, entering new coordinates, but after a moment she made a sound of frustration. "Captain, the navigation system is not responding." "I cannot change our course." "What do you mean you cannot change it?" Vexor demanded. "I mean the controls are locked. We are still on course for Torvin, and I cannot alter it. The system will not accept any new commands." Vexor felt something break inside him. It was the last piece of control he thought he had, and now it was gone. The ship was locked on course. The human sat calmly in his cell, and crew members kept dying. "Scretch," he said, his voice very quiet. "I need you to tell me the truth. Is the human still in that cell?" Scretch did not answer right away. Her fingers moved across her screens, pulling up every security camera feed on the ship. She checked the holding cell from 3 different angles. She examined the magnetic cuffs with high-resolution scans. She verified the energy barrier status. "According to every sensor we have," she finally said, "yes, he is in the cell. He is restrained. He has not moved." "But you do not believe that, do you?" Vexor asked. Scretch's whiskers drooped. "No, Captain. I do not believe it." "Then where is he?" "Everywhere," Scretch whispered. "I think he is everywhere." The deaths continued through the night. 2 more crew members died in an access tunnel, found with their necks broken. One died in the cargo bay, crushed by a falling container that security footage showed fell at exactly the right moment to hit him. Another simply disappeared. One moment he was on a security camera walking down a corridor. 3 seconds of darkness. When the camera came back on, he was gone. They never found his body. By morning, only 19 crew members remained alive, including Vexor. The captain called everyone to the bridge. It was the most defensible location on the ship, with only one entrance and multiple security cameras. They sealed the door and set guards. "We need to talk about what is really happening here," Vexor said. He looked at each surviving crew member. He saw fear, exhaustion, and something worse, resignation. They had given up hope. "The human is killing us," one engineer said bluntly. "We all know it. The question is how." "I have a theory," Scretch said. She looked like she had not slept in days. "I think the human in the cell is not real. I think it is a hologram, a projection. The real Reaper has been free since the beginning." "That is impossible," Krull protested. "We checked him. We scanned him. He was real when we brought him aboard." "Was he?" Scretch pulled up footage from the initial capture. "Look at this. Watch carefully when we first dragged him from his ship." They watched the scene play out on the screen. Guards moved forward, weapons drawn. They entered the small human ship. Moments later, they emerged with Reaper in restraints. But Scretch slowed the footage down frame by frame. "There," she said, pointing. "See that flicker? Just for a fraction of a second, the image distorts. It is very subtle, but it is there." Vexor leaned closer. She was right. For just a moment, Reaper's image seemed to glitch like a bad hologram. He could have been a hologram from the start. Scretch continued. "We brought an image aboard, not a real person. The real Reaper has been hiding in our ship this entire time, learning our routines, sabotaging our systems." "Why?" another crew member asked. "Why go through all this? Why not just kill us all immediately?" "Because he wants something," Scretch said. "He needed to be brought to Torvan for some reason. This whole thing is planned." Vexor felt sick. If this was true, then they had never captured the human at all. They had invited him aboard. They had delivered themselves into his hands. "Captain," Krull said urgently, "I'm reading something strange in the communication logs. There have been encrypted transmissions going out from our ship for the past 5 days. Very short bursts using frequencies I have never seen before. To where? Vexor asked. I cannot tell. But they are regular, every 6 hours like clockwork. He is reporting to someone, Scretch said. Giving updates, coordinates. This is not random violence. This is a mission. Vexor stood up, his legs shaking. He walked to the main view screen and stared out at the stars rushing past. In the reflection on the glass, he could see his crew behind him, huddled together like frightened children. What does he want with Torvin? Vexor wondered aloud. The slave markets, Zilk said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the doctor. 3 months ago, there was a raid on a human colony transport. The Kratesh, our people, took about 200 human civilians. They were sold at Torvin. The bridge went very quiet. Oh no, Scretch breathed. He is not our prisoner. We are his transport. Vexor understood then. Understood everything. The human had not been captured. He had arranged to be captured. He needed to get to Torvin, to the slave markets, and this was the only way to infiltrate them. And that meant he has been in control this entire time, Vexor said. From the moment we found him, he has been controlling everything. As if in response, every light on the bridge went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And then, through the sealed door they had locked so carefully they heard a sound. Whistling. Someone was whistling a tune. Something cheerful and human. The sound grew closer. The door slid open with a hiss, though it should have been locked. And there, standing in the doorway, was Reaper. Not restrained. Not confined. Just standing there casually, hands in his pockets, like he had been invited. Hello, Captain, Reaper said calmly. We need to talk. The guards on the bridge raised their weapons, but Reaper did not move. He simply stood there in the doorway, relaxed and calm. The red emergency lighting cast strange shadows across his scarred face, making him look like something from a nightmare. I would not do that, Reaper said quietly, looking at the guards. Your weapons are offline. Check them. The guards looked down at their energy rifles. The power indicators were dark, dead. Somehow, impossibly, every weapon on the bridge had been disabled. How? Vexor managed to ask, his voice barely a whisper. Reaper stepped onto the bridge. The crew backed away from him, pressing themselves against the walls and consoles. He walked to the captain's chair and sat down, perfectly at ease. I have been living in your ship's walls for 5 days, Reaper said conversationally. Nice ship, by the way. Good bones, but your security is terrible. I have had access to every system since the first night. Life support, navigation, weapons, communications, all of it. You killed my crew, Vexor said. Only the ones who tried to hurt me, Reaper corrected, and the ones who were involved in the colony raid. I checked your crew records. 12 of your people participated in the attack on the human transport 3 months ago. Those 12 are dead. The others died because they got in the way or because I needed you all to understand something. Understand what? Vexor asked. Reaper leaned back in the chair. That you made a mistake. A very big mistake. You took our people. You took 200 human civilians, families, children. You sold them like animals. And humanity does not forget things like that. The Kratesh Syndicate has taken slaves from dozens of species, Vexor said, trying to sound defiant. This is what we do. It is business. It was business, Reaper agreed. Past tense. Because what you did not know, what nobody in this sector knows, is that humanity has a rule. We protect our own, always, no matter what it costs, no matter how long it takes. Scretch spoke up from her console, her voice shaking. The encrypted transmissions. You have been reporting to your people. Very good, Reaper said, nodding at her. You are smarter than your captain. Yes, I have been sending updates. Position, speed, estimated arrival time. My team needed to know when to be ready. Your team? Vexor felt his blood run cold. Did you think I was doing this alone? Reaper smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. The Human Space Federation takes this seriously. When you took those colonists, you started a war. You just did not know it yet. He stood up from the chair and walked to the main view screen. With a few touches on the console, he pulled up a star map showing their current position and trajectory. In 2 days, we will arrive at the Torvin slave markets, Reaper said. I will be delivered to the auction, just another piece of merchandise. And while all eyes are on me, 7 other teams will hit the station from different entry points. We will recover our people, and we will make sure the galaxy understands what happens when you take humans. You are insane, Vexor said. Torvin Station has hundreds of guards. Defense systems. Battleships in dock. 7 teams cannot fight all of that. 8 teams, Reaper corrected. You keep forgetting about me. And you would be surprised what a small group of motivated humans can accomplish when protecting their families. Scratch was frantically working at her console. Captain, I'm checking the human ship again. The data I recovered earlier. There is more here. Mission files, tactical plans, communication logs. This operation has been in planning for 2 months. She pulled up documents on the screen. Vexor read them, his horror growing with each line. The files showed everything. Detailed maps of Torvin Station, guard rotation schedules, weapon placements, lists of every slave dealer known to have human captives, and at the bottom of each document a simple phrase in human language, leave no one behind. You cannot do this, Vexor said desperately. The Galactic Council will not allow it. There are laws, treaties. The Galactic Council ignored our diplomatic requests, Reaper said, his voice going hard. We told them our people had been taken. We provided evidence. We asked for help. They did nothing. They said humanity was too new to the galactic community, that we needed to accept how things worked out here. He turned to face Vexor directly. So we decided to show them how things work in human space. In human space, you do not take our people, ever. What do you want from me? Vexor asked. Why are you telling me this? Because I need something from you, Reaper said. And in return, I will let you and your crew live. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. What do you need? Vexor asked carefully. Reaper pulled out a small data chip. I need you to confirm that the 200 colonists are still alive. I need their exact location on Torvin Station, and I need to know about any additional security measures that might have been added since my intelligence was gathered. You want me to help you attack Torvin? Vexor could not believe what he was hearing. I want you to help me save innocent people, Reaper corrected. People who did nothing wrong except be born human. Children, Captain. Some of those colonists are children, taken from their parents, sold. Do you have children? Vexor did not answer, but his expression must have given something away. You do, Reaper said quietly. Imagine them taken. Imagine them scared and alone, waiting for someone to save them. That is what those colonists are feeling right now. That is why I am here. And if I refuse? Vexor asked. Reaper's expression did not change, but something in his eyes went very cold. Then in about 20 minutes, the ship's reactor will reach critical levels and explode. Everyone dies. I will take an escape pod and complete my mission alone. Your choice. Scratch checked her console and gasped. Captain, he is telling the truth. The reactor is showing abnormal readings. The safety systems are locked out. We cannot stop it. I rigged it 3 days ago, Reaper explained. Insurance. I will disable the sequence once we have a deal. Vexor looked around at his crew. 19 people left alive from the original 37. He saw their faces, saw their fear. They were looking at him, waiting for him to save them. If I help you, Vexor said slowly, you will let us live. You and your crew will be placed in escape pods with enough supplies to reach the nearest trade route, Reaper said. I will send out a distress signal once we are far enough away. Someone will pick you up within a few hours. You will survive. How do I know you will keep your word? Reaper tilted his head. You do not. But consider this, I could have killed you all days ago. I did not. I only killed those who were guilty. That should tell you something about how I operate. Vexor thought about it. He thought about his family waiting for him back home. He thought about his crew who had followed him on this doomed voyage. He thought about the human colonists, and he felt something he had not expected to feel. Shame. What do you need to know? Vexor asked quietly. Relief flickered across Reaper's face, there and gone in an instant. He handed Vexor the data chip. Access your syndicate's internal network. Find the current inventory listings for Torvan. The colonists will be listed under bulk merchandise, probably tagged as manual laborers. Get me their location codes and their physical condition reports. Vexor took the chip and inserted it into his console. His fingers moved across the controls, accessing databases he should not be accessing, pulling information that could get him killed if the syndicate found out. But none of that mattered anymore. I have it, Vexor said after several minutes. The colonists, all 200 are still alive. They are being held in Storage Facility 12, subsection D. That is in the lower levels of Torvan, heavily guarded. The listing says they will be auctioned in small groups over the next 2 weeks. Are any of them injured? Reaper asked. Vexor read the reports. Some malnutrition. A few cases of illness, but nothing critical. They are being kept in good condition for sale. Reaper's hands clenched into fists, the only sign of emotion he showed. Good, that is good. What about additional security? After several high-profile thefts last year, Torvin installed new biometric scanners at all major checkpoints, Vexor said. They also increased the guard patrols in the storage areas. And there are 2 battleships docked with full crews. They serve as additional security. Reaper nodded, absorbing the information. Anything else? There is a protocol, Vexor said hesitantly. If the station comes under attack, all valuable merchandise is to be eliminated to prevent rescue or theft. Reaper went very still. Eliminated? Yes, it is standard procedure for high-value assets. Then we will have to make sure they do not have time to execute that protocol, Reaper said quietly. His voice was calm, but Vexor could hear the rage underneath it, controlled but burning. Reaper reached over and touched the reactor controls. After a few commands, the critical readings began to drop back to normal levels. The danger was past. Thank you for your cooperation, Reaper said. In 36 hours, we will reach Torvin. When we do, you and your crew will get into the escape pods. You will wait until I give the signal, then you will launch. Do not try to warn anyone at Torvin. Do not try to be a hero. Just leave and save yourselves. What will happen to Torvin? Vexor asked. Reaper smiled, and it was the coldest expression Vexor had ever seen. Torvin is going to learn what happens when you take our people. The venomous prophet limped into Torvin Station's docking bay exactly on schedule. From the outside, it looked like a ship that had barely survived a difficult journey. Scorch marks covered the hull. Several external panels hung loose. The distress beacon transmitted automatically, requesting immediate medical and technical assistance. Station security ships surrounded the vessel, scanning for weapons and threats. They found nothing unusual. Just another pirate ship coming in for trade, a bit worse for wear than usual. Inside the docking bay control room, the shift supervisor watched the ship settle into its assigned berth. Run standard boarding procedures, he ordered. Full inspection. A team of 12 security officers crossed the docking bay and entered the venomous prophet through the main airlock. They found the ship almost empty. Only 3 crew members remained aboard, and they looked terrified. What happened to your crew? The security chief asked. One of the crew members, a nervous vixen, stepped forward. Internal disputes, she said quickly. Arguments over profit sharing. Most of the crew took escape pods 2 days ago. We stayed to bring the ship in. It was a common enough story. Pirate crews were not known for their loyalty. The security chief nodded and gestured for his team to search the ship. They found minimal cargo. Some exotic animals in the hold. A few crates of rare minerals. And in holding cell 7, they found a human. He was sitting peacefully on the bench, hands cuffed behind his back, feet chained to the floor. His eyes were closed like he was sleeping. The security team approached carefully. Humans were valuable, but they were also known to be dangerous. Subject secured, the security chief reported. 1 human male restrained and docile. Preparing for transfer to auction holding. Acknowledged, came the response from control. Medical team en route for processing. Reaper kept his eyes closed as they moved him from the ship to a transport cart. He felt the vibration of movement, heard the sounds of the busy station around him. Hundreds of different species moving through the corridors. The hum of thousands of conversations in dozens of languages. The smell of strange foods and stranger beings. He was wheeled through multiple checkpoints. At each one, guards scanned him with various devices. Biometric scanners read his physical characteristics. Chemical sniffers checked for explosives or toxins. Energy detectors looked for hidden weapons or technology. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. Reaper was exactly what he appeared to be. A captured human, properly restrained, ready for sale. Finally, he was brought to the auction preparation area. This was where merchandise was cleaned, documented, and staged for presentation to buyers. Reaper was placed on an examination table. Medical staff checked his vital signs and overall health. A clerk took detailed photographs and measurements. Excellent specimen, the head clerk said, making notes on a data pad. Adult male, approximately 40 standard years. Good muscle tone. Visible scarring suggests combat experience, which increases value. Estimated starting bid 300,000 credits. When is the auction? Asked one of the medical staff. Tomorrow morning, the clerk replied. He will be in the first group. Humans always attract the biggest crowds. They moved Reaper to a holding pen in the auction hall. It was a large room divided into dozens of cells, each containing various beings waiting to be sold. As they locked him into his assigned cell, Reaper finally opened his eyes and looked around. In the cells across from him, he saw them. The colonists. Human faces staring back at him with hollow eyes. Men and women who had once been farmers, teachers, engineers, parents. Children who should have been playing and learning, now sitting in silence behind energy barriers. One of the children, a little girl no more than 7 years old, saw him, and her eyes widened. She recognized him as human, one of her own kind. For the first time in 3 months, she saw hope. Reaper gave her the smallest nod. Then he closed his eyes again and waited. The auction hall filled with buyers as morning arrived. Wealthy beings from across the sector came to purchase exotic merchandise. Guards stood at every entrance, weapons ready. Security cameras covered every angle. The station's 2 battleships remained in dock, their crews on standby in case of trouble. Nothing seemed unusual. It was just another auction day at Torvin. Reaper was brought out onto the stage. His chains clinked as he walked. The crowd murmured with interest. Humans were rare, and this one looked particularly strong and healthy despite his visible scars. "We begin with lot number 7, the auctioneer announced, his voice amplified throughout the hall. "Adult human male, excellent physical condition. Starting bid, 300,000 credits." Hands went up across the audience. The bidding rose quickly. 400,000, 500,000. The crowd was excited, voices rising as the price climbed. Reaper stood on the stage, head bowed, looking defeated. Inside he was counting. Counting seconds. Counting guards. Counting exits. He had memorized the layout of the auction hall from the maps Vexor had provided. He knew where the colonists were being held. He knew where the security controls were located. He knew everything. The bidding reached 800,000 credits. The auctioneer raised his hammer, ready to finalize the sale. Going once, going twice, Reaper whispered a single word, so quietly that only the closest guards might have heard it. Execute. Across Torvin Station, 7 different locations erupted into chaos simultaneously. An explosion ripped through the main security station, destroying communication equipment and throwing the entire facility into confusion. Guards rushed to respond, leaving their posts undefended. They did not notice the figures in dark armor moving through the shadows behind them. The power grid failed in 3 different sections of the station. Emergency lighting activated, but the familiar hallways now looked strange and threatening in the red glow. Maintenance crews scrambled to fix the problem, but every time they thought they had found the issue, another system would fail somewhere else. On the docking bay, both battleships suddenly found their launch systems locked. Crews ran to their stations trying to override the security protocols, but their computers refused to respond. Someone had taken control of their systems from the outside. And in the auction hall, the chains holding Reaper's wrists suddenly clicked open. They had been unlocked remotely, waiting for his command. Before anyone could react, he moved. His hand shot out and grabbed the closest guard's weapon. One smooth motion, faster than most beings could track with their eyes. The guard fell unconscious before he hit the ground. Reaper fired twice, hitting the energy barrier controls for the colonist holding areas. The barriers flickered and died. "Get them out!" Reaper shouted to the colonists. "Move now." Chaos exploded across the auction hall. Guards opened fire, but Reaper was already moving, diving behind the auction stage for cover. Return fire came from multiple directions as the other 7 human teams burst into the hall through different entrances. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, working together with practiced precision. Each team member knew their role. Cover fire, evacuation routes, medical support. Nothing was left to chance. "Secure the colonists," ordered the team leader, a woman with captain's insignia on her armor. "Get them to the extraction point." The colonists stumbled out of their cells, weak from months of captivity but desperate for freedom. Human soldiers moved among them, guiding them, protecting them, helping those who could not walk on their own. A group of station guards tried to block one of the exits. Reaper appeared behind them like a ghost, taking them down with quick, efficient strikes. He did not kill unless he had to. This was a rescue mission, not a massacre, but he would do whatever was necessary to get his people home. "They are trying to seal the extraction point," someone shouted over the communication network. I have it, Reaper replied. He ran through the corridors, his internal map of the station guiding him. He reached the security control room and kicked the door open. Inside, 3 guards were frantically working to lock down the station's main hangar. Reaper disabled them quickly and accessed the controls. With a few commands, he reversed the lockdown and opened every door between the auction hall and the hangar bay. The path was clear. Extraction road open, he reported. All teams move out. The evacuation moved like clockwork. The 8 human teams formed a protective corridor, moving the colonists through the station's hallways toward the waiting transport ships. Station security tried to mount a defense, but they were disorganized and confused. Every time they set up a position, they would find it flanked or bypassed by the highly trained human soldiers. In the hangar bay, 3 human military transport ships waited with their engines running. They were not supposed to be there. They had infiltrated the station disguised as civilian cargo vessels, hiding in plain sight for weeks. The colonists poured into the transports. Parents clutched their children. Friends supported each other. Some were crying. Some were too exhausted to show emotion, but all of them were going home. Casualty report, the captain ordered as the last colonists boarded. 0, came the response. All colonists accounted for and alive. Minor injuries only. Our teams? 2 wounded, neither critical. Everyone is mobile. Then let us finish this.